Hello, I'm Gareth A Davies, and this is the Championship Rounds for Pitch Boxing, where I bring you all the interviews from the combat sports world. Enjoy.
Well, I'm joined by truly a legend of boxing. I want to say women's boxing again, but we say boxing as a whole now, don't we? Christy Martin. I'm looking at your book cover, first of all, Christy, and I know you've had a long and remarkable life. And my journey through boxing fame, abuse, murder, and resurrection, fighting for survival. Christy Martin, with a great friend of mine, Ron Borges, who's a brilliant writer and a great man. I just want to start there because that is just an extraordinary cover for your book.
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me on with you. But yeah, Ron Borges is a great writer, a great man. And, you know, there's a story because Ron, of course, we know him through his boxing, great articles and coverage that he did, especially during the 90s, during my career for the Boston Globe. But he was one of those guys that was 100% against women's boxing. So I had to convince him that I was a fighter and a good fighter, and win him over by my performance and my output and trying, you know, and really put it to him to get him to you know, swing over to my side and really give me support. And it was so fun and really easy talking with him to get the book done. You know, he was just easy. He was like a confidant, somebody that I could really trust and you know, be open with.
Is it at this stage in your life still, and is there an element of catharsis in doing the book and doing it all and putting it out there in that way?
For sure. I mean, every time that I, you know, I tell my story and feel like that I help somebody else, it helps me. And I feel like by sharing my story with different people, different groups of people, that it'll help them. And by helping them helps. That's what I said. God left me here for a reason. And that reason is really to help other people, not to have to make the same journey that I did, whether it be with the domestic violence situation, the sexuality stuff, or just so that other people will have faith that, hey, this girl from Southern West Virginia, coal miner's daughter, from this little itty bitty town of like 500 people, if she can grow out and really come to the top of boxing, of all sports, I can do whatever my dream is.
I mean, let me first of all recap over the news from last weekend. You were quite prevalent in a very, very big women's boxing event at Madison Square Garden. You were framed on some of the stand firsts, if you like, at the weigh-in, and your views were put out there, and with Congresswoman Vasquez, with Layla Ali, with lots of formidable women who box today, many of whom are enjoying the fruits of the path that you and several other women who I'm aware of and have written about over time, you know, Layla Ali and Mia St. John and Ann Wolfe and others, kind of pioneered that path for them. What did you feel about last weekend's event between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano?
There's so many different things going on that night. Not only do we have two women headlining at Madison Square Garden, the Mecca of boxing, they filled the house. And they filled the house with, I really felt like, you know, it was going to be like maybe 80-20 New Yorkers, and then Katie Taylor would have her like 20% fans. It wasn't like that. I mean, Katie Taylor had people flying across the pond to come to the garden to see her fight. And that in itself is a statement so big. I don't even know how to put words to it, because, you know, we have people making this great journey to come see a woman fighter and giving her such support. It was great. That the electricity in the building was off the charts. And then So they have all this pressure on them. They have a great, each are great champions. So they have to feel the pressure of fighting each other. But on top of that, they have the pressure of, they know the world is watching. The world is watching. The world is watching. Can these two women really live up to the hype? And do they deserve this opportunity? And those two champions went out there and put on a show that is going to take a long time for another fight to beat, male or female. That is, I mean, they're already talking about the fight of the year. Somebody's going to have to go somewhere to beat that out as fight of the year.
When DAZN say things like, 1.5 million people watch. Now, when you were boxing, there were massive audiences for some of those fights on television.
But they were watching because they were watching Mike Tyson. They just got Christy Martin as an appetizer.
And yet, do you think it was a novelty act at the time then? Do you think did you ever feel that you were being put out there as a novelty act? Because women's boxing was very young then in lots of ways.
I feel like that Don King promoted me like a fighter. Don King put me out there each and every time, basically sink or swim. You have to go out there and put on a show. I feel like other promoters promoted other female fighters as a sideshow, as a novelty act. I mean, look, let's face it. We all know that Bob Arum is the king of novelty acts. Butterbean and the 4-round champions. And Arum's done this throughout his whole career. And then he promoted Mia St. John as whatever he promoted Mia St. John as. So it's, my situation was different. King promoted me like a fighter, and that's how I wanted to be promoted. That's who I am. I just wanted to fit into the sport of boxing. I didn't want it to be, oh, Christy's a good fighter for a woman. I wanted people to walk away and say, wow, that was a good fight. She's a good fighter. And that's what happened Saturday night. There's no way that anybody left the arena or turned their TV off and even mentioned that it was two women. They had to say that was one hell of a fight.
I think one of the things that stood out for me as well is how ferocious they both are in the ring, and yet in the entire build-up, when they came to London, when they did their press conferences in New York, when they went on CBS on the morning program, incredible levels of respect and the lack of ego they showed towards each other, I think endears them to a bigger audience as well in many ways, because it's become, I think it's vogue for women to fight now. I think in many ways the storylines lend themselves to greater stories, certainly as a storyteller. And I think people are drawn to it. As well as I do, I've worked in fight sports in MMA for 16 years and boxing for nearly 3 decades, that it's not for everyone. Some people see it as violence, even though we know it isn't, that it is a sport and it's a physical expression going back to the days of gladiators or even primeval forces that are within us. And some people have to demonstrate that you're just naturally warriors. You would have hunted the great giant buffalo back in the caves with the men. You would have just done it. You would have been one of those warriors. I'm convinced of that. Of 100 men, there would have been 5 or 6 women. I'm convinced of it.
Right.
After all this time. But do you feel that there's still a long way to go to persuade people that females boxing is right, and that we do need to change perception still?
Absolutely. I mean, it still has a way to go, but boxing as a whole is a tough sell. And we still have that segment of the population that thinks boxing period should be outlawed. We should be done with it. That it's not, that this is just isn't what we should do. Have 2 human beings out there fighting each other. I mean, it's illegal to let animals fight, but yet we're filling up arenas and paying millions of dollars for people to fight each other. So it's a tough sell, and it's a even tougher sell for female boxing. But again, fights like Saturday night, that has to cross over. It at least brings the boxing fan to the fight. We're still working to gain more fans for boxing as a whole. And as we get the younger generation, they're used to women athletes. These little boys that are now, young men, they've been playing soccer and basketball, every sport they can with girls.
Mm.
You know, it's just the way it is. It's different now. I mean, back in my time, we weren't allowed to play with the boys, and we didn't have girls teams, so it was different. But now it's just more acceptable.
Do you think the biggest difference now, or if you think this is the biggest difference, is that we've got finally, and maybe it's as a result of women's boxing in the Olympics as well from 2012 onwards, we've certainly seen those champions from the Olympics really rise and come out of the amateur sport and into the professional side of it. Do you think what we're seeing more now is that there's more of a depth of kind of elite fighters in women's boxing?
You know, that's what I had hoped for after the Olympics. But I'm not sure that we are having more depth. I think just that few percent at the top are a little better than we were in the 90s. Maybe we had, you know, in the 90s, we had a really strong group of maybe 10 or 12, 15 women that could fight. I mean, we could fight with these girls today. Trust me. Maybe I think we had more dog in us for sure. At the skill level.
Let me throw that at you. But you against Clarissa Shields, you against HH Diva, you against Savannah Marshall.
Well, I know this Clarissa Shields, I would bust her ass because she can't fight backing up and she can't stop me from coming forward. So that particular one, I can make a statement on. The others, I mean, Savannah Marshall, she's strong, she's big. I'm pretty small. I'm actually, you know, on my good days, I'm 5'4", and my best fight weight was probably, my best weight was probably 135. My most fought at weight was in the 40s, but yeah, you know, we had a different kind of hunger. We had a different kind of dog because we were still fighting hard to prove that we belonged. These girls today, we've kind of fought that battle for them. Now they just they prove that they need the opportunity. And it's a different fight today on the outside of the ring.
Do you think you'd be coming over to fight here in the UK now as well?
Will I come to the fight?
No, would you be fighting in the UK as well?
Oh, I would love to.
It's big over here, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, even in Mexico, they're putting women on as the main events.
Yeah, every 2 or 3 weeks, Mauricio Suleiman tells me. Every 2 or 3 weeks, there's a women headlining a card, you know.
And the funny thing is, back in oh my goodness, early 90s, I was actually supposed to fight in Mexico City and wasn't allowed because the country would not allow women boxers to box at that time.
Yeah,
I mean, I was scheduled. Don King had already announced I was on the card, and then they called and told me that I couldn't.
Let me, you know, she's very active now. Holly Holm, do you remember that fight?
I do. You know, Holly Holm. Again, I guess it's a styles make fight kind of fight. I had just lost out on the Lucia Riker fight. We had promoted that. I had trained hard. I was in tremendous shape. My focus was all on fighting Lucia, winning $1 million. And then I end up in what I say. I remember sitting on the stool in between like rounds 5 and 6 thinking, here I am in BFE, Albuquerque, New Mexico, somewhere fighting this girl. I don't even know why I'm fighting it. And so mentally, physically, I wasn't really there, but my style and her style was always going to be ugly. She was a runner. You know, at that point in time, I didn't really want to chase anymore. So she won the fight, they say.
The coal miner's daughter versus the preacher's daughter.
Yeah, she must have prayed harder than I did that night.
And the Layla Ali fight, I mean, I covered some of Layla's fights. I certainly covered her fight with Jackie Frazier Lyde, which was a lot of fun in a circus tent in Syracuse. I don't know if you were at that, but what's your memories of the Layla Ali fight?
You know, I guess the worst memory of the fight is that I consider that the worst 10 seconds of my boxing career that I stayed on my knee because, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. I wish I would have just gotten up and she would have knocked me out and I would have been done. The referee could have stopped it or they could have counted me out, whatever. But yeah, So, but Layla's a big girl, that was part of it. After I knew she was big, but the first time I really saw her after I signed the contract, I was like, "Oh shit, this is a big woman."
Yeah, that was at super middle, wasn't it?
We fought at, I think I weighed 147 when I left my hotel room, but I weighed in army fatigues and combat boots and all that stuff. So I think I was like 162. Yeah.
With all that on as well.
With all that on, yeah.
Oh. If I can take you back a little bit in your personal life, I mean, that I don't know whether it's okay to speak about it with you in the here and now. You've had some what some people might consider to be real trauma in your life. Obviously going back in the past, and with shooting and stabbing, and I mean, do you, like many of us when we look back in our younger years, is it a case of not knowing at the time, or not knowing ourselves at the time, and maybe being exploited and not being grown up enough to know where we were?
It's a good question, and it's my personal life and my private life were so intertwined, and I felt like giving up my personal life or causing disturbance in my personal life was gonna cost me all of the hard work I had put into in my boxing life. And that's what he had convinced me, that I had to have him, and it was all because of him that I was getting these great opportunities. And yeah, I mean, part of it is you start when you're young and you start down that rabbit hole, and that's what happened. I mean, I started down the rabbit hole after he was even telling me, before I married him, that he would kill me if ever I left. I laughed it off because I'm 22 or 23 years old. I didn't take it for real. I didn't take it seriously. But somewhere in the 20 years, and I'm not sure still today, I don't know exactly when it happened, but I knew that's the way it would end. So I went through all this stuff, and then I got to that point where I was ready for it to be the end. And that was after being addicted to cocaine and just so like, oh my God, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. I have fallen so far, and I didn't care anymore if I lived or died. And at that point, that's when I said, I am going to leave, and it's in his hands. And as I left that day from my house, he told me that, I told you I'll kill you. If ever you leave me, I'll kill you. And I told him, do what you have to do, Jim. But I knew that he would kill me 100%. There was no doubt.
You're incredibly strong, vibrant, and a very powerful person today. And I mean, it's quite emotional asking you about this, if I'm honest, because it's such a, it's life and death, isn't it? And in some ways, have those things been the making of you becoming? It's just obvious that you are such a strong person. Is it part of the making of you being such a strong person now with such strong faith?
I don't know that I'm strong. I try to be strong. But I can't, even today, sometimes when I feel so frustrated and like, give up, I hear his voice, and I'm like, I can't let him win. Still today, I can't let him win. He destroyed me. He destroyed me. He destroyed me emotionally, mentally. I was a strong, positive. I believed in me. I was an arrogant ass. And then some of that arrogant ass was fake, was hiding who I am, and how much I don't believe in myself. So it's a battle. I'm still battling today. Like you can get this done. You believe in you. You can make it happen. Do this. But part of that is to share with other people so they can understand that, yeah, they have the same battle. They have the same not positive days. Some days you wake up like, oh my God, how did I get here? What am I going to do? How am I going to get out of here? But we just have to keep fighting. We have to keep working. We have to keep crossing those hurdles. And that's what I want to share with other people, because I really think that if you know somebody else is having the struggle and they are getting over it, they're getting through it, and you can see their path, then that gives you hope. That gives you direction. Like, okay, I see that path. I can take that same path and I can get back on my feet too. And that's what I want to do. I want to help other people.
When you speak and when you give that message, and when people listen and when they speak to you after and say, oh my God, that's given me so much, does that drive you to do this more than that, to put that message out there?
Absolutely. I mean, that's, I used to say, if I just help one person for the rest of my life, then I've done my job. I've done what God left me here for. And then I'm like, no, helping one person is not good enough. I want to help one person every day.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, that's why I'm doing the Zoom stuff. Yeah. I want to promote Christy Martin. I want to promote the book. I want to promote the Netflix thing. I want to promote all the things we're doing, my fights. But really what I'm doing is I want to help people every day. I want to find somebody. I want somebody to hear me talk and think, you know what, if that crazy little woman from West Virginia can do this, I can do it too.
Do you watch boxing today, and are there figures in boxing you really enjoy, male and female?
We go to a lot of fights. Lisa and I were at we saw Tyson Fury and Wilder. I think we saw 1, 2, and 3.
Well, did you all three?
And she's a huge Canelo fan. So tomorrow night we're actually in Orlando right now to do a fundraiser event. But she's stressing. We got to figure out how we're gonna go see Canelo somewhere tomorrow. So yeah, we go to the fights. Yeah, we're boxing fans. We try to watch as much fights like on TV and be aware, because with their promotions, we need to see where our guys need to grow, what they need to grow to.
Do you think, this is an odd one, do you think a man and a woman, I've been to one man versus woman fight actually. In 2000, I went to Seattle. Do you remember this fight? Margaret McGregor, who had been physically abused by her ex-husband, fought a guy called Lloyd Chow. And I went to an event in Seattle. It was about 2000, in 2000, I think around about then. And it was 2/3 women in the audience, about 5,000 people, and they tore the house down. We dubbed him Lloyd Chicken Chow because he ran for about 4 rounds, and Margaret McGregor battered him like a raging bell. I mean, he was on a lose-lose, but
right, absolutely.
There's all the debate about trans athletes now, and should a man and a woman ever get in the ring together? No.
Men are just physically, genetically stronger, faster. No, it should never happen.
So when you
and let's say this. Yeah, I know that this is what happened. This actually happened. I was about to sign, before I signed with Don King, I was about to sign a deal with Jackie Callum. She brought me to the Palace in Auburn Hills for a fight. I had the fight. I knocked the girl out in the first round. Her matchmaker at the time said to me, Christy, we can fill this house and make lots of money if you fight a man. Now, first of all, he said 2 things wrong. First, I'm not going to fight a man, but he was talking about how much money he was going to make, not about how much money I was going to make. So that's 2 things wrong. But the most important thing that he said, to fight a man. Look, yes, could you find a guy that I could beat off the street? For sure. But then what happens? Then you have to fight a tougher guy and a tougher guy and a tougher guy. Finally, you get not only embarrassed, but you have the potential of really getting seriously injured. It just isn't, that kind of stuff hurts women's boxing. Clarissa Shields talking about knocking out Triple G, and that she could knock out this guy and that guy, that hurts women's boxing. That's what hurts women's boxing. Not 2 women going out there and putting on a fight like Taylor Serrano did. It's the talk that to compete against the guys. It hurts women. It hurts women's boxing because it hurts the women from inside the boxing world. The guys that could support you are not going to support you if you're talking about you really think you can knock out a guy.
Finally, can I ask you perhaps you mentioned that, you know, that it wasn't difficult doing the book with Ron Borges. Were there any, or what was the most difficult thing about doing the book?
You know, we had some really touchy conversations about a lot of different topics, but probably the sex stuff, you know, was a little tough talking to anyone about. But even that, like Ron and I we would just kind of laugh a little bit, and you know, sometimes Ron would shake his head, and I would tell him, you know, like, I'm not a man. You have to explain some of this stuff to me, because Jim was a freak, a sex freak, and like I can't understand some of it. So Ron would sometimes shake his head. I can't understand it either, Christy. I'm like, well, you know, I guess it is what it is. But that was probably the hardest stuff. And it was fun because we did a lot of boxing stories that didn't get into the book, but just personal conversations, because clearly we know a lot of the same people, and he's still involved in boxing, and you know, it was fun. It was, and that was part of the like the relaxing conversations, and then you have those, and it's easier to move into the tough ones, the tough conversations.
And I'm going to ask you a final question about boxing. When people look back and watch your fights, how would you like to be remembered as a boxer?
She brought it bell to bell. She left everything in the ring. She gave us her best every time out. I might have cheated on a lot of things in my life. I've done a lot of things wrong that I regret. But I never cheated on boxing. I gave it my all.
And do you know, even like maybe looking back on it now, where that power, where that spirit, where that warrior spirit comes from inside you? Is it innate? Is it through nurture? Is it something that is in your DNA? Where is it? Where does it come from?
I think it probably is in the DNA. It's just to want to be the best, but then it's a different line when you cross over and want to be physically the best at such a combat sport, I guess. But part of it was in the boxing ring, I could be me. I could be that aggressive, physical person that wasn't so accepted on the outside of the ring.
You could leave it all in there as you did every time. Yeah.
I certainly tried.
Well, it's an absolute privilege and a pleasure to speak to you. And I will do my utmost for your book sales and get your life story out there, because it is just, well, it's a Hollywood epic, basically, isn't it? You know?
We're coming soon to a theater near you.
Who's playing you then?
You know, I don't know that yet. We are in early stages of casting and looking for a director and those kind of things right now.
Like a Jodie,
but it's coming.
A Jodie Foster. I mean,
you know, I don't know. I don't know. You know, we had to find somebody, even though we're the same age now. Probably we had to find somebody that's a little younger to do the young stuff, the young Christy.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for your time, Christy. It's brilliant to speak to you. I really appreciate it.
This day's finally come, you know, where, you know, I've got to retire from boxing. You know, I believe that there's nothing else to gain from boxing, and I've spoke to my family, and to leave the sport on such an high fight, what I've wanted for all them years. And, you know, it's hard, but there's nothing else for me to do, you know, and gain in this sport, really.
You told me a couple of days ago that you know your heart's not in it, even though there's still lucrative fights out there. People have been talking about you and Conor Benn, you and Chris Eubank. The heart's not there.
My heart's not there, you know, for it. You know, what I put into training camp, how much that's all I've ever wanted on my resume. You know, the grudge match with Khan, won the world titles, being in them big fights. And, you know, my heart's not really in it anymore. You know, I'd be doing it for wrong reasons.
So February, March, April, it's, you know, kind of 10 weeks after that fight, if that feeling would have returned, yeah?
Yeah, I would have known. You know, they mentioned all these names, and there's many other names. What you haven't mentioned, you know, I could fight anyone after that last win, you know. But you know, even that, you know, it's just something within where, you know, the love's gone.
So many fighters are still tempted back for another one. Do you think you will be down the line or not?
I don't think I will. You know, who knows? What's today's not what's tomorrow, but in my heart, and it's been there for a while. You know, I've been undecided, but speaking to my immediate family, and you know, I think it's time. You know, that we hang the gloves up. You know, and competing. You know, myself.
What was the reaction from the whole family when you said, you know, I think that's it? Were they happy about it?
Yeah, my mum especially. You know, she's very happy that, you know, because we all know it's a sport we can legally get killed in, and you know, she's happy that I've got away with my faculty intact, and I've done what I've done in the sport. I'm just hope that I've entertained all the fans over the years, and you know, that's the main thing. You know, and it's set me up, you know, for life, and it's, you know, it's a sport I love. You know, I've hated it at times, but you know, this is boxing, and it comes with the territory, doesn't it?
When have you hated it then?
You know, I've just stated, you know, the losses, and you know, sometimes the training, getting the weight off, and you know, the negotiations, what, you know, do your head in, and you know, there's many spins. It's never straightforward boxing at this level.
Mm.
You know, so there's all that what's, you know, what I've you know, took in over the years and had to deal with, and I've just come to the stage where, you know, I can't do it anymore.
8 years old, you walked into the gym, wasn't it?
9. I was 9.
Nine.
Yeah.
If you hadn't walked into the gym at 9, you know, it's given you discipline, like you say, rigor. It's given you an outlet for, you know, clearly you were, I remember your dad, Terry, talking to me about even when you were 5, 6 little, doing pull-ups and scaffolding, that you were just a physical specimen. And everyone always remarked on it, that you were just this really physical little boy. Without boxing, do you think you might have had a troubled life?
Yeah, I think I would have. You know, the area where I'm from and the people I know, I think that I probably will have got involved with doing the wrong things. And I do. I think boxing and Brendan Ingalls, you know, saved my life. You know, taught me self-discipline, taught me to a routine to get into the gym, and a goal, and to get better, and to watch this fighter and that fighter and study it, and all my body and mind and everything was, you know, in boxing, indulged in it. So, you know, I do believe that, you know, boxing has definitely saved me.
You said that you needed that Khan fight. You needed to settle the feud. Do you think that's what's helped you think this is it, really?
Yeah, I do. You know, I think that I've said it on many interviews before that I've done absolutely everything, and the fans wanted that fight so bad, and you know, I wanted to give that fight for the fans so bad, and now I've done it. I'm just at peace with myself. You know, I feel at peace that I've had a fantastic career. You know, won world titles abroad, and been in with Golovkins and Spencers and Crawfords and big names, and I think that was the one I needed. You know, on my resume, I needed that fight for me.
It was with you a long time. It was a very kind of, I mean, I've done so many interviews with you about it in the build up to it, probably over 8 years, I would have said. Since you were world champion anyway, it was burning more. And you know, you were dark about it at times. You literally felt that he was avoiding you because he feared the loss, or not necessarily fear. I mean, he probably doesn't fear the loss, because fighters don't fear, but that he didn't relish getting in with you, or didn't want to give you that moment.
Yeah, it got to me for many years, you know, because, you know, it's not like that our fight obviously gelled. Look how fast it sold out, you know, and that could have happened at any time. It's not like it's you know, a fight what nobody's interested in. You know, all the world were interested in that fight, so it was frustrating, you know, that it wasn't there many years ago. You know, but we did get there, what a fight to leave the sport on. You know, for me, it were unbelievable, the turnout, the atmosphere, you know, from start to finish, what I had to go through, changing the gloves in the ring, all the different demands, what he wanted over the period of making the fight, and obviously I made him pay for that, you know, when it come to the fight night.
Like you say, though, and I'll never forget the night. I mean, obviously I was working in the broadcast and working for the Telegraph, but it was an unbelievable night, an incredible atmosphere, you know. So I suppose you can leave the sport with that memory, that you know, that triumph and that performance and that atmosphere and all those things.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'll always be remembered for beating Khan. You know, people forget about whatever else I've done in my career, but you know, I'll be remembered for that, and it's something that I'm happy to be remembered by. You know, because I've had it so many years. When I'm fighting him now, they'll understand that I batted him from pillar to post and got the win. So, you know, it's a good note to leave the sport on.
When you have those feuds and those rivalries and those enmities, those grudge fights, now it's over, or you've had the fight, has that dark feeling left you towards him?
It has, yeah. You know, it's like, you know, after that, you know, we shared the ring together, and you know, he put his fight up. He took some big shots. You know, the respect's there. You know, on my side, it's, you know, like you said, it's that darkness has gone towards Khan. You know, like I would actually go and have a coffee with him now.
That's so good to hear. You two will probably be sitting on a stage together in 5 years' time, laughing about the rivalry, doing a night with Kell and Amir. You probably will. You know, who'd have thought Eubank and Ben would do it eventually years later, or, you know, all these guys that Froch and Groves, and, you know, it's an athletic hatred, weirdly, isn't it? I mean, I know it was very bitter in the build-up, but it's that kind of, it's that tease, I suppose. It's that frustration that you can't express yourself in the way that you guys know. And once you've been in the ring and expressed it, it's there. It's a piece of work then, isn't it? You know?
I think the build-up, obviously, we're both each other, but that, you know, that's building up a fight, that's boxing, that's real emotions. But like you said, when you've been in and shared the ring and, you know, the job's done, I think it all leaves you. You know, I think probably him as well. You know, so like you said, that's the sport. You know, we can call each other names, go on at each other in the build-up, then we have a fight, and, you know, we respect each other after.
Nothing to prove, no regrets in the career, no?
I don't think so. I don't think there's, you know, there's some fights that I've wanted, but like this politics, I'm still, you know, involved in some big fights. And, you know, I'd probably say that my name's, you know, one of the high names in the sport at the top. So, you know, I think that I've done a good bit in the game.
Well, 2017, you were Ring Magazine's #1 in the world, weren't you, if you recall? That was 3 years after you beat Porter. Just tell me about that, the memory of that. That's kind of a long time ago in a lot of ways. What are your memories of that in Carson, California?
It was just amazing. You know, with my first fight abroad, you know, in America, in his backyard, fighting for a world title. You know, there were many different emotions. I were younger. I was going through. You know, this is the time where, as a 9-year-old kid, I've walked into the gym wanting to be a world champion. Now, you know, now we're here, and you know, it were an hard 12-round, you know, chess match at times. But you know, when they announced me as the new champion, I can't put into words the feeling. You know, I'd probably say it's got to be the best moment in my career, for sure. You know, that winning that world title in his backyard. in America, and it was just, I was walking on air. You know, I was floating after that fight. It was so amazing to do, to go out there and to become world champion and achieve my childhood, you know, dream.
Kell, you nearly lost your life soon after that. How fortunate do you feel that maybe God was on your side, or the right things were on your side, that you were able to come through the machete attack and be operated on and get healthy again and go back to your career? Because you must have felt it was over at one point.
You know, God's always been on my side all my life, but, you know, more so then, you know, and, you know, I didn't think I'd box again. You know, the doctor even said he went, you know, he thought I wouldn't be able to box again. But, you know, when I come back, you know, I have to thank my blessings. And, you know, it was a scary moment in my career, you know, soon after the world champion win, you know, so it did take a lot of that light away from it, you know. But like I said, it's been a roller coaster, my career, my life. And, you know, it's it's I think I might need to do a book next, you know, because it's like, what a career, with the ups and the downs, and even training for the Devil Alexander fight, you know, 3 pullouts fighting for the world title. There's been so much, you know, to think and talk to you about now, you know, on here, but there's been so much what's gone off. But what a career.
With those, even though they're losses, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, Gennady Golovkin, a modern great at middleweight. Yeah, you went up 2 weight divisions. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, you know, you and Errol Spence were having a battle royal till your eye broke. People forget how close the fight was, you know. You know, and again, boxing's a very cruel sport. People say you quit, this, that, and the other. You know, you know yourself what happens to people physically in there. It's easy for people to sit in an armchair and say things. That resume with those people, look at Sean Porter's achievements after you fought him. There might have been a better time in your career to have fought the likes of Terence Crawford, you know. You know, you've definitely been in with. There's a bit of a who's who going on there, isn't there? You know, certainly at 147. And Golovkin was a big ask, wasn't it? And you went in there, you just gave what you had, you know. And it was you gave it to him for 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, I did. I gave it to him, but like, he were a monster, you know, middleweight, you know, and the other 2, you know, no excuses, but, you know, I believe that I could have beat them to eat on different circumstances. Obviously, I went with Dominic, with Crawford, and through the lockdown, and, you know, obviously the away fighter, and they really were giving me the mess about when I were over there, and, you know, it didn't go to plan, but, you know, it's not like I were outclassed by any of them, you know. I were always there in the fight, you know. But, you know, it obviously wasn't my night then.
What are you going to miss about it?
I'm gonna miss the, you know, as hard as it is, but the training, you know, getting better, faster, you know, getting leaner, and obviously, you know, the ring walk, the walking out, the fans cheering, you know, the fans so excited to get in the seat and to watch the fight, you know, the build up, you know, you can cut it with an eye, weeks get closer to the fight, and, you know, most parts of it, you know, I'm gonna miss most.
You're not someone who chases the limelight. You're not someone who was ever after fame, I don't think. You just wanted to be respected and be the best at your craft. Are you happy that you never kind of embraced the limelight and you stayed true to yourself, in terms of you weren't looking to be on celebrity programs and this and that and the other? Is it so you, in a sense, can live a quieter life, in a sense, you know?
Yeah, you know, I've never been one of them, you know, for the attention and stuff. You know, I know they come with the territory, but, you know, I'm not one of them media holes, you know what, I just, you know, looking for it, you know. But like you said, it comes with the territory. I try to just keep myself to myself. I don't really go out looking for attention like that. But like you said, it's part of the makeup of the sport. You know, when you're doing well and you're at the top, you know, you're gonna get cameras pushed in front of your face.
A couple of years ago, you and I did a piece, might be in a year and a half ago, where you were saying about, I think we did an interview in the Telegraph where you were saying, and no, I hadn't really heard you speak about it before, about you've suffered from mental health, like many people do. You were open about it. Have you got to look after that now in yourself, to find a new route, to find a new journey at 35 in your life, to stay comfortable in that sense and know that you're doing something that's going to keep you satisfied?
Absolutely, I'm still finding myself, you know, because I'm on to, you know, a chapter's ended and a new chapter's going to open. So, you know, I'm still finding myself, you know, while I've got my time off. But I need something with a routine, something that, you know, that just sort of my mental health out and gets me up, gets me, you know, gets me out of the house and gets me doing something, you know, every day. You know, because if I'm just walking around the house and not doing nothing, and you know that it's not gonna be very good, is it? It's not gonna be very good for the mental health. So I need to get myself into something positive and, you know, giving back, you know, probably to the kids in the gym and, you know, to other people just helping out and doing nice things. Well, it'll satisfy me, yeah.
Because I remember you saying that you completely understood when Tyson Fury was being open about kind of dark days and being on the edge of the cliff, and that you've been there yourself as well, you know?
I totally get Tyson Fury, what he's been through, 100%, you know, and I think a lot of sports people, you know, go through the same, you know, some hide away from it, some are more transparent with it, but I think a lot of top athletes, you know, go through them dark times in the career.
Do you need to stay fit? Do you need to keep going to the gym? Do you need to find that physical outlet for yourself, whether it's starting cycling or whatever it is? I might say paddleboarding, but you know, whatever it is, to, you know, mountain climbing, doing physical challenges.
Definitely.
Are there things in the pipeline?
There's definitely going to be, you know, things like that in my life, you know, because it lets some endorphins off, and, you know, it makes you feel a lot better about your day and yourself. So absolutely, you know, I've done it for my life, and I think my body needs to let them endorphins off in the gym and have a good sweat and, you know, a good hard training session. Definitely.
Can you see yourself training fighters, managing fighters, doing anything like that, staying in boxing?
Yeah, I can. You know, I think that it's something that I've grew up, you know, doing and knowing. So I think that I can definitely give back to the sport 100%. You know, I know a lot about it. I've been in with, you know, all the promoters and being around all the gyms, and, you know, like I've done most of what, you know, what a fighter does, and around, you know, different things in the sport. So, you know, I've got a good idea what needs to be done.
All right.
So,
yeah. Sorry.
I do.
Final thing. How would you like to be remembered as a boxer, as a fighter, as a pugilist, as a prize fighter?
You know, just someone what wanted to give the fans everything they wanted. You know, the fights, the excitement. You know, I've never shied away from any fight. Just being, you know, just entertaining. You know, being in some good fights. You know, fans enjoying out my style, and, you know, just excitement. You know, giving the fans what they've wanted. You know, when they tune in, excitement and pleasing for them. I always like to believe that when they've left, you know, the arena after watching me, that they've had a great night, they've enjoyed the undercard and they've enjoyed the main event, watching me knock someone out, hopefully.
Kell, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to cover your career, absolutely, and I really appreciate this chat. It's quite an emotional day, no?
It's hard to, it's still hard to say and digest, but because I'm a fighter, and a fighter, it's hard for a fighter to actually decide that most fighters, the sport retires them. I'm retiring from the sport, on a serious high, instead of carrying on and maybe getting beat or just going in for the wrong reasons. I've come out when I wanted to come out, and I think this is the right time to do that.
The fighter in you, the warrior, will never leave you. I suppose it's just redirecting it now, isn't it?
Absolutely.